So in this section, we are going to be introducing the trigonometry. And the word trigonometry means the study of triangles. So in this lesson, or the next two lessons, more specifically, we're going to be talking about right triangles. So a trigonometric ratio is the ratio of the lengths of two sides in a right triangle. We're going to be using these ratios to find missing sides and missing angles. Okay? And these ratios are only going to be applied to the acute angles. We're not going to be doing them based on the right angle. So only on the two acute angles, and we must have a right triangle to do these. So here is our trig ratio for the tangent. So we have a right triangle, and it's going to be ABC, and we have two acute angles. Okay, we've got the 90-degree angle here at C, and then we know that A and B are acute angles. We're only going to be doing this tangent ratio on angles A and B here, only on the acute ones. And the tangent ratio is represented as opposite side over adjacent side. And that's what's here in the note here. Opposite to A and adjacent to A. I can also write the tan ratio for angle B, and I'm going to do that in a minute. Now, what I recommend you do before you even start setting up your fractions is label the sides. The first side you should always label as the hypotenuse. So I'm going to label C because it's opposite the 90. Okay? Technically, side C is adjacent to A, but because we give it the name hypotenuse first, we're not going to use it as an adjacent. So the side opposite to A is what letter? A. It's across from the A, so it's opposite. And then the lowercase b is going to be our adjacent side. So as soon as I can figure out which side is opposite, which side is adjacent, it makes the problem super easy. Now, some people came in and told me that they've heard so, ka, toa. This is a way that's going to help you memorize the three trig ratios. The last one is what we're talking about today. This is for the tangent. Notice the letters in it, tan, and then the O is opposite over adjacent. Yes?
What would be the fraction?
Okay, so this fraction for the tangent based on angle A would be A over B. So when we're referencing A, we're looking for the side opposite to A, which is little a, and the side adjacent to A would be little b.
So can that be the hypotenuse?
No, not for tangent. For sine and cosine, we're going to use the hypotenuse. If I said find the tangent of angle B, what is the side opposite angle B? It can't be the hypotenuse. So what's opposite of B? What's across from B?
Little b.
Little b. Opposite of B is little b. And then, so don't look at my writing here because that was for A. So now opposite of B is now little b, and adjacent to capital B is this little a. So basically you're flipping the fraction. Yes?
How do you know where adjacent is? Like, I forgot what adjacent is.
Okay, adjacent means next to. So you are adjacent to Mary Angel, so the side that's adjacent to angle A would be little b. You don't name, technically, on this triangle here, let me redraw it here because it's a lot of writing. If this is A, and this is little a, and this is little c, and this is little b, the side that's adjacent to angle A are really two sides. It's A and C, but because we're going to name C as the hypotenuse, we're not going to give it the name adjacent.
So you can't use the hypotenuse as the adjacent side?
Correct. So the hypotenuse only gets the name hypotenuse and that's it. And then the other two sides are either the opposite or the adjacent, depending on the angle we're referencing. Yes?
Are we going to be learning so and ka?
Tomorrow.
Oh.
Just TOA today. All right, let's look at one with some numbers here. So we want to write the tangent of R. We're talking about angle R. So let's go ahead and label our picture. Okay? Which side, which number is opposite of R?
3.
The 3. So I'm going to label that as OPP, opposite. Which side is adjacent to R? The 8. So now in my tan ratio, I'm going to write tan of R is equal to 3/8. Now when I talk about the angle S, what side is opposite S? The 8. And then the adjacent would be 3. Notice it's just flipped upside down. It's how you're looking at it from what angle. So this is how you're going to express it as a ratio. Yes?
How would you do that as a calculator?
We're not. If it just asks you to write the ratio, all you do is put the numbers that are opposite and adjacent. Now we're going to actually use the calculator in a minute. Okay, so if it just asks you for the ratio, you're just putting opposite over adjacent and stop. Good? All right. Now, in this example, we're going to learn how to use our calculator. So if I ask you to find the tan of 45, if you have the TIs, you're going to hit the tan button and then the 45 and then hit enter. If you're using your iPad, you're going to do 45 and then hit the tan button. When you do this, everyone should get the answer of 1. Okay? Then for 36, when you do that, you're either going to hit your tan button first, or you're going to hit the 36 and then tan. So when you do that one, you should get 0.72654. We're going to round it to 4 decimal places. So I'm just going to erase the 4 because the 4 is going to make the 5 stay the same. So when you're doing the homework and the test and the quiz, whatever we're taking, read the instructions on what I want you to round it to.
Like, what does this question mean though?
Okay. So what we're going to be doing is I'm going to give you a picture of a triangle and I'm going to say find the missing pieces. You're going to need to have at least one angle other than the right angle and then one side length in order to find the other missing pieces.
Okay.
So this is what we're going to do. We're going to see it in a minute. So right now we're just learning how to work with our calculator. So right now, if it just has the word TAN and an angle measure, you're just either hitting tan in the angle and hit enter, or if you're using your iPad, put the number first, then tan.
Maybe like 5 questions like that one.
Okay, we'll see. Okay, now this one, C and D, this one we're looking for an angle measure. Now for this part, everybody should have either a shift button or a second button. It's usually the colorful button up in the corner. When you're looking for an angle measure, we're going to hit the second button or the shift button, so that way on your display it should say tan to the -1. Everybody finding that? So when you hit it, let me show you what it is on my calculator. If you're using your iPad, you're going to put that decimal first, then hit the second key, and then hit tan. But for the calculators, we are going to, first thing you're going to do for this is I'm going to hit the blue second key. Then I'm going to hit tan. Notice in my display, see the little -1 at the top? This is the inverse function. Can somebody tell me the decimal for that question?
2.
Is it 0.2 or just 2?
2.
2?
0.475 1.
Okay, then hit enter, and everyone should be getting a 68-degree angle. So you should be able to hit shift or second, put in the decimal, and then hit enter. Oh, okay, on your calculator, you're not gonna hit second. See how it's got 2 things on this? The second key is for all the light blue stuff. So for you, you're gonna hit it 2 times.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and then put in decimal. Some of the calculators, you hit the tan button 2 times. And then it'll bring up the -1. No, you're probably gonna hit shift first. So hit shift and then tan. Yeah, see how it gets the -1, then the decimal.
And do you want to see only for?
Okay, for the angle measures, we're either gonna round it to the nearest degree or to the tenths place. In this case, we're just gonna round it to the nearest degree, and it's gonna be 68 degrees. Question? Okay. So when you did it, no, you were hitting the number first. Okay, so what you're gonna do is, it was like 2.4 something, right?
751.
751. We're gonna hit second, tan, and then hit, yeah. So yours, you have to put the number in first, and then hit either tan or second, it's an angle. Okay, so now you're gonna hit second, and see how it makes it -1 now? And then you hit that button, and then do it.
I believe you can maybe one.
Yes, for when you're looking for an angle measure. So when we don't know the angle measure, that's when we have to hit the shift key or the second key. Okay, again, make sure you come and ask me if you're not understanding what to do with your calculators. All right, so then the other one, what was the other angle measure?
38.8.
38.8?
0.8.
So 39?
Oh.
And the other one was 68, was that what it was?
68.
68 and 39? Some of the questions are going to say round to the whole number or the nearest degree, and then some will say round to the 10. So for this case, we'll just round it to the nearest degree.
Like if it said 39.15, it'd be 39.1.
Yeah. All right, so everybody good on that? All right, let's next. All right, here we go. When it asks you to use the tan ratio to complete the triangle, we need to find the missing angle measures of A and B and this hypotenuse. How can we find the length of that hypotenuse?
Oh,
Very nice. We are going to use a squared plus b squared equals c squared. I shouldn't put these congruency marks in here because they're not congruent. So to find the length of the hypotenuse, we're doing Pythagorean theorem. So if it says complete the triangle, that means you need to find every missing piece. Now, technically, we don't need to find the length of the hypotenuse for our tangent ratio, but if it says complete the triangle, we would have to. So we would go ahead and plug in, and they gave us the 2 legs, so a squared, and I could say this one's b squared, and I don't know c squared. So 4 plus 49. So this would end up being 53 equals c squared. To find c, you just square root it. If it says round to the 10th place, we would hit the button and get that answer. For now, we don't need to use that. I'm just going to leave it as square root of 53. What is going to be the tangent of A? Just tell me the fraction. What side is opposite of A? 2. Which side is adjacent to A?
7.
And that's going to be my tangent ratio. Okay, what about tangent of B? What's that going to be? What's opposite of B? And what's adjacent?
2.
And that's going to be that ratio. Now we need to find, now that we know these tangent ratios, we're going to find the measure of angle A. So to do that, we could do tan -1 of 2 divided by 7. So we use that tangent of A to find the measure of angle A. And this is where you hit your shift key. Okay, so do tangent or shift tangent and then do 2 divided by 7. And tell me the angle measure you're going to get.
15.3.
Okay, so we'll round it to the nearest degree. It's going to be 15.94. We're going to round that to the nearest degree and make it 16. Now, if this one's 16, do I really need to do another trig ratio to find B? How can I find B?
Do 90 plus 16.
Good. I could do 90 plus 16 and subtract from 180, or I could even just do 90 minus 16. Now, this is hoping that my calculator didn't malfunction and that I got the right angle for A. So one way you could double check it is do tan of B, which will be tan negative 1, flip the fraction, and this needs to be, once we do it, it should be 74. So let's check it out and make sure we get that. So if I do tan, or shift, tan, 7 divided by 2, I get 74.05. If I'm rounding to the nearest degree, it's 74. So one way that you can check that you have completed and filled in your triangle correctly is these two angles, when you add them, should be 90 degrees. Is everybody understanding that? Yes.
So when you write it on your calculator to find like angle A, you put 2 over 7.
2 divided by 7, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and hit your second tangent button, or the tan to the negative 1. Everybody good so far? All right, let's see what's next. All right, again, another completion of the triangle. How are we going to find this missing leg? We need to find this one because this one's going to be our opposite or our adjacent.
A squared.
Plus b squared equals c squared. Anybody recognize those numbers from the slides where I told you Pythagorean triples? This is actually a Pythagorean triple. So if you memorize the Pythagorean triples, you would know that this side is going to be 15. However, if you didn't memorize them, then you're going to do a squared plus b squared equals c squared. I know the c squared 17. I don't know my a, and my 15 is 8. This is 8, sorry. So then I would get 64, and then 17 times 17 gives me 289. Subtract that 64, and I get 225, and when I square root that, it's 15. So now I have the missing side. If I wanted to do the tangent of angle A, so I'm talking about A, what's going to be my fraction? What's my opposite and adjacent? 8 over 15. I would get 28. So I have my tangent ratio based on A, it's 8 over 15. If I want to just double check that I did this right, I can also do the same thing for the tangent of B. Okay, what is the trig ratio for tangent of B? 15 over 8. And then to get the angle measure for angle B, so I would do tan negative 1, and I'm using, for B, 15 divided by 8. So when I did that on my calculator, I would get second, then I hit the tangent, and then 15 divided by 8, and I get 61.92. I'm going to round it to the nearest degree, so this will be 62 degrees. Double check that this does form equal 90. You can add 62 plus 28 and find out that it is 90 degrees. So we did complete the triangle appropriately. Does that make sense? So you need to be able to find the opposite and the adjacent sides in order to put them into the trig ratio. Okay, and one more. So this time we've got an angle measure. Let's label our sides based on this 24-degree angle. What is side X, opposite or adjacent? Okay, and then the 20 is the adjacent, and then this is our hypotenuse, just to label it. So we need to find the value of X. So what I'm going to do here is put this into my trig ratio. So I'm going to do the tangent of 24 degrees is equal to opposite over adjacent. I now have to solve this equation. I need to get X all by itself. How can I get X all by itself? How can I get rid of that 20? Okay, I'm going to actually multiply it on both sides to get it out of the fraction. And then I'll do the same thing over here. So to find the value of X on your calculator, you're going to do 20 times, and then you would hit tan 24. If you want to do tan 24 first, and then times by 20, you can do that. So when I go ahead and hit tan 24, you should have gotten like 0.44522 times that by 20, and this missing side is going to be 8.90. Again, they're going to tell you what to round it to. We'll just make it 8.9. And it seems reasonable because my adjacent leg was 20, and that leg definitely looks smaller. So you'll be setting up your trig ratios, and then you're going to be either multiplying or dividing, or both. In this case, we had to multiply to get the 20 out of the denominator, and then get it to the other side, and then multiply. If your variable ends up in the bottom, then you're going to divide to solve. Okay, and we're going to see a lot of practice of this. Right now, as we all learn to use our calculators, this lesson might be a little challenging. Give it your best shot tonight as far as, what you can do. Then tomorrow we'll go over this, and then I'm going to teach you the other two trig functions. And the other two trig functions, they're going to be the so and the ka. And here's the toa. So the sine is going to be opposite, that's what the O stands for, over hypotenuse. And then the cosine is going to be adjacent over hypotenuse. And then the tan that we saw, opposite over adjacent. You'll need to memorize these three trig ratios. If you remember so, ka, toa, it makes it a little bit easier. And then you just plug in the numbers. You label your sides, which one is opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse, and it makes it putting into the fraction really easy. So tonight your homework is practice B, and then we'll go over that tomorrow, and then on tomorrow we're also going to learn these other two trig functions, so the sine and the cosine. Good?